So the next question I have is, how do inventor bonus programs work, right? So first off, an inventor bonus program is just simply when an enterprise decides that they want to incentivize, typically with money, but not necessarily with money. They want to incentivize participation with the patent program. So probably the most common way it will work, and I'll kind of give you the Silicon Valley model because that's where there's the most money involved and the most incentive. So they'll give cash bonuses, part of the paycheck, at different times during the process of engaging with the patent program. So it might be a small amount when you submit an idea, just merely filling out the form. There'll be a token amount, less than $100, around $100 or something like that, for just filling out the form, submitting the form. And then typically the idea will go to some sort of vetting process. There's some sort of vetting process. So at a large enterprise, it may be a formal patent committee that goes and looks at the idea and will decide whether or not to pursue it. And at that point, sometimes they'll pay a bonus. Typically not upon submission and upon approval. That's usually one or the other, not both. And then the idea will go out to be drafted with your patent prosecutor. And you will go back and forth as the inventor, giving feedback and revising the patent application until ultimately it is filed. And typically there's a large payment then, somewhere, I've seen them as low as $1,000. I've seen them as high as $4,000 or $5,000 at that point. And then the patent application is pending at the office. It'll go through its rounds of argument, and then ultimately at some point it becomes an issued patent. And there is a bonus typically paid at that point. Sometimes there are companies that'll try and figure out the value of the patent later and compensate based upon what the value of the patent is. Royalties, like universities will often, if there's a licensee, will share royalties. Enterprises typically not, because it's just so hard to quantify. There might be a given product with 50 patents on it, and how would you divide up the incentive? So that's more traditionally part of your annual bonus, or your just kind of normal bonus you would have at the enterprise. But that can happen. And that's kind of the standard program, right? And I have some clients that say, look, it's a part of the job. We really shouldn't be paying for this. We hired this person to be an engineer, a scientist, developer, whatever, and they should be participating in the program. So instead of a carrot, the monetary payments, you might have a stick, right? So as to say, you make it part of their job duties. So very specifically, you make it part of their annual review, and their self-evaluation. They might have to say how they engaged in the patent program. And there could be separate bonuses for engagement in the patent program, or it could just be part of an annual bonus or something like that. I had another client that every time there was a new development, any sort of new development you wanted to do, or internal research and development program, as part of that, you had to say what IP you were capturing. So it was part of kind of the business plan, the internal business plan, to get it approved within the enterprise. So you can make it kind of part of the normal process to get things approved or to do annual reviews. And that's also an effective way to increase the amount of patent filings by incentivizing them, or in the case of making it part of your review, perhaps penalizing non-participation. Now to the edge cases. That's kind of just the standard program, but things that always come up, right? Like a lot of companies will file provisional patents, right? As you'll submit your idea, it'll get approved just to file a provisional patent. Rarely do companies pay at that point. But we had talked to kind of about a token amount, whether when you submit the idea or when it gets approved. You might give the token amount when you file the provisional. I wouldn't pay on all three of those things happening. I would pay probably on one of them happening. You want somebody to be incentivized to fill out that form because you want more ideas getting into your program. And then it would fall into the kind of the normal cadence where you would pay upon filing of the patent application and issuance, perhaps. Another question that always comes up is foreign patent applications. So it's not unusual to start off typically in the US for your initial filing, and then you'll branch off to perhaps a patent cooperation treaty patent, which is kind of an international process to start foreign patents. And then whether you do that or not, or just go directly into particular countries, you'll end up with perhaps patents being filed all over the world. There's, almost every country on earth has some sort of patent program. But it's very rare for companies to file so broadly. And imagine if you were paying bonuses on each and every one of those. Because really, philosophically, these programs are trying to pay the innovator to say, hey, it's above and beyond your normal job duties, and it's so important to the enterprise, we're going to pay you extra to do this. This is a practical matter. It's over and above typically your normal day duties, right? You're designing a chip or you're writing some software and stuff like that. You got to break free from that and do this separate thing. So you're paying them to engage in this separate thing over and above because not everybody within the enterprise is doing it. But when it comes to a foreign patent application, rarely much engagement is needed. Typically, there's a lot of time for the innovator to gather up the information to put together the initial form. There's a lot of time to review the filing. Sometimes there's feedback given while the case is being argued. The patent prosecutor will ask for some feedback. But very rarely when it comes to these foreign cases. So almost nobody pays. I don't have any client that pays anything when it comes to filing a foreign patent. I've had one company that will pay when a foreign patent gets issued. The other thing that comes up is continuations. You'll have the initial filing, and then you'll have branch-off filings, divisionals, continuations in part. Should you pay on those? Those are new filings. And most companies do not pay on those because there's very little help that's needed from the original set of inventors. So for continuations, divisionals, almost nobody pays on those. Continuations in part, which is some new information, some old information. Typically when your invention disclosure form goes to the drafter, sometimes they'll say, oh, well, this is very similar to this other case. How about we just kind of claim priority off this other case or something like that. They'll make some sort of legal determination that makes sense. So I have some companies that pay upon those, or some of them where it's a judgment call, because it could be that a continuation in part is like adding a sentence to an original filing. Sometimes it's a completely new idea, but it's just similar enough to another one that someone made the decision to claim priority to the other one. It's kind of a judgment call. But I would say by and large, people don't pay on those. But I have had some companies that really love to do these continuations in part. They started to pay on these. And then those are programs in a nutshell. And let me drop back for a minute and kind of talk about it at a high level. You have an incentive program when you want more ideas. And it's kind of a lever to pull to get more ideas coming out of the enterprise. But there's lots of levers to pull, and we've talked about some of them on the other videos. But it's, sort of thing where if you're getting too many invention disclosures and budget doesn't provide for it, maybe you lower the amounts. If you're not getting enough, maybe you increase the amounts. Maybe you do both carrot and stick, where it's incentive and you make it part of the review. And those are all decisions that the enterprise needs to do as they buy into the patent program. And in a nutshell, that's how one incentivizes in a tangible way, engagement with the patent program. So if you have any questions on this, or you want another topic answered, put it in the comments below. And please do subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Thanks.